From a secret underground bunker somewhere in the Arizona desert,
Over here.
40 feet below the Earth's surface, two men, aided by their robotic artificial intelligence, Jennifer,
Jennifer, at your service.
hide from their wives and kids to discuss man stuff with interesting and unusual people. These men are the Bunker Boys.
Is that you on drums?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well, that was good. I like that.
Thank you.
Bunker Boys are back in the house. As if we ever left.
As if we
Sometimes
ever
I feel
left.
like we never left. But I'm glad you joined us. You've joined us because we were apart, and now we're joined. And here we are.
Is that how it goes?
I used to have a broadcast instructor who said, why do you say joined? Yeah, I wasn't me he was talking to, it was somebody else. Why do you say we're glad you've joined us? Were you apart? Well, I said, well, you're apart from the audience. They've rejoined you. Why, that's a legitimate thing to say.
Okay.
Don't you think?
I believe you.
That's what he thought. Okay, well, enough about that.
Anyways,
We've got a show to do. We're onward and upward. We've got lots to talk about. Let's talk about the Kavanaugh appointment. Shall we?
Really?
Sure.
Okay, whatever you want to do.
Well, I just wanted to say,
Hey, you're the band leader, dude.
and that's why I have this big baton.
Right.
That's the worst I intended.
I've seen you doing it a few times.
The baton. Watch the baton. It is a magic wand. No, Brett Kavanaugh, the guy, it's old news by now because this show has been delayed, but it's ongoing as we speak. We're at the tail end of it now in real life. And I just wanted to say that I don't know how anybody can make a judgment until they've heard the evidence. And then people are making judgments. You don't believe her? Well, let me tell you something. I have known several women that have lied about being pregnant, about all sorts of different things, just to get attention. Not that everybody is dishonest, but I've seen it enough to know that people lie. So, unless you have some evidence that shows some man did something, how the hell can you ruin his life?
I don't know, but they're sure trying.
Don't you feel the same way?
I agree.
Is there any evidence this man did anything wrong?
No.
And if there were, I'd be the first guy to say, nah, maybe you better pick somebody else. Because then all of his judgments will be called into question. Anything to do with how he sees things or abortion rights or what have you. But I am fed up with people that don't listen to evidence. You ever been on a jury?
No. And don't want to be.
I'll tell you what, it was an experience because I work for an insurance company that allows us time off when we get called for jury duty. And they have to give you the time off, but they don't have to pay you. They allow us to work and get paid, or get paid as if we're working, and go to the trial. Well, I was on a jury trial that lasted about a month and a half.
Wow.
That I just continued to go there instead of work. And I continued to get paid. Now, that was wonderful because my company believes that you should do your civic duty. And I was on this trial about a young man who had developed leukemia because of what he said was exposure to gasoline. And he worked at a gasoline company that handled gas every day. They would transfer gasoline from their big tanks, their storage tanks, where it got delivered from where the fuel processing plants were, and they would bring their delivery trucks up to be filled up, and his job was to fill those delivery trucks. And he had to be specially trained in how to handle things. How does he handle, chemicals? There were, OSHA requirements. There were safety gear provided. And supposedly, if he did all these things, he wouldn't get sick. And they knew that this was the safe way to handle gasoline. Well, his attorneys, through the whole trial, kept trying to say, this poor young man, he may be dying, we don't know, unless they come up with a cure, and he's got this horrible disease, all because he handled gasoline, this big company's product. And I went, okay, I'm waiting to hear where it's their fault. And I'm listening, and I'm listening, and I'm listening. A month later, and every day, I went into the jury room at deliberation, and I would say, has anyone heard anything yet that leads them to believe that the major big company with the deep pockets and the lots of cash did anything wrong? All they did was allow the gas to be delivered to this one location and provided their safety material. They also had safety material on just from the government, knowing how to safely handle gas. And every day, no one had heard anything that allowed them to believe that the gas company did anything wrong. They did everything by the book. And at the end of the trial, the attorneys turned to us in the jury and they said to us, this poor man, he's got no money coming in. He's got to take off work all the time. His wife and he wanted to have a baby. They're high school sweethearts. Painted this real sob story. And it was a sad story. And I don't take anything away from this kid who wanted a life and has now probably had his life cut short, all because of this horrible disease. But I kept waiting to hear where it was the gas company's fault. What did they do wrong? By the end of the trial, we heard absolutely nothing that indicated to us that they did something wrong other than be the rich oil company. These people thought that they could play on our emotion.
Emotions, exactly.
And say, this big bad oil company, we know their gas causes cancer. And it might, but we don't know. All the studies that have been done are inconclusive. And they brought in 3 or 4 expert witnesses to testify about gasoline and as being a carcinogen. And they said, well, every study has said it could be or it couldn't be. It's vague. We don't know. We still don't know. And I tend to believe maybe it could cause cancer, personally. I believe that any chemical that's harsh like that does have the potential to alter your chemistry. And if it gets into your bones, I mean, strontium-90, which is a radioactive element.
Strontium-90?
Yeah. If you get it into your system, you get one molecule in your lungs, you've got cancer.
Wow.
Period. That's how that works.
Oh, nothing to do with that.
Yeah. And so something like that, can happen. But when you realize that this company did nothing wrong and they were being accused of being the big bad wolf, and they provided all the training, they even helped, I think, provide training for this young man.
And safety equipment.
And safety equipment. And spec sheets like they are required by the government, by the feds. And then his company trained him, but didn't make him wear the safety gear. And that's what came out of the trial. Did he wear the safety gear? No, he did not, because it was cumbersome. So he didn't wear the safety gear, didn't follow the rules, and got cancer. Now, is it the gas's fault? Yeah, I mean, the gas could have caused the cancer, but because he was negligent personally, I couldn't fault that on the gas company or the oil company.
Right.
That's not their fault.
Because you have to read all that stuff before you even start working there and everything else.
Oh, yeah. You have to be trained before you
have to
handle
follow
it.
the rules. That's what rules are for.
Exactly. It's safety rules, and that's why they create them. They don't want you to get sick. It just causes a strain and drain on everybody. So he ended up getting sick. I don't know if he's alive to this day. I hope that he is. And I don't blame him for wanting to, pay his bills. But I'll tell you what was one of the key turning points. They made a mistake when they gave us evidence, and they left some of his bills that are being paid in with all the other documents. And so what helped some of the women that were there, because the women were the bleeding hearts in our jury, they said, oh, the company, they've got deep pockets. It won't hurt them. I said, how would you feel if you're a ma and pa? Because this woman told me she owned a store. I said, what if one of your employees said, well, you've got deep pockets. Let's just sue you because I did something stupid on my own, opposite of what you trained me to do. Now, because I did something wrong, really, isn't it my fault and not your fault?
You would think.
But let me sue you because you've got deep pockets. As soon as I turned that around on her, I said, it doesn't matter what the dollar figure is. This is a matter of right and wrong. So let's do what's right. And I don't care if it is a big oil company. If you don't do to them and screw them because this guy didn't follow the rules.
Right.
So if it's anyone's fault that he got it, I'm saying it's his own fault. It's a shame. It's sad. I feel bad. And maybe he wouldn't have got it had he followed the rules.
Well, and there should have been some sort of supervisor
There was.
supervising, and the supervisor didn't make him wear all that stuff either. So
Exactly. My point with that, I brought that up too. I said, so if anyone needs to be sued, it's his employer, not the gas company. So that's the kind of thing that I think is going on here emotionally.
So what happened? Finish the story.
Well, to finish, we adjudicated it at the end and said they were not at fault, that this big oil
The
company,
gas company wasn't it?
they were not at fault. I worked hard to convince them. And I was getting kind of uptight about it, upset because they were arguing with me about it. Well, they did this and they did that. I said, they didn't do anything. So, what helped is I calmed down and I said, look, if I did this to you in your store, how would you feel? Does the dollar amount matter? It's right and wrong. If you didn't do something negligent, why should you be sued?
That's true.
And just like this Brett Kavanaugh deal, there's no evidence that he did something wrong. If he did something wrong and there was anything that corroborated it, there you go. We maybe shouldn't confirm him. And then again, you get into this other thing. He did not rape this woman. He, according to her, and this again is a he said, she said, because women see things differently than men do, oftentimes, even your own household, you know that. Mm-hmm. I can't take her word 100%.
Yeah, and you know what? She can't remember where it was, when it was, all this other stuff. She probably I'm sure she has the wrong person.
30 days ago on Monday, do you remember what you had for breakfast?
Yeah.
What?
A banana.
Are you sure?
No. I'm just.
And the only reason he would be sure is because he does it every day.
Yeah, I eat a banana every day, every morning.
But that's my point. And then to have some of these women that are screaming at the congressman in public and telling them that if they confirm him, they're confirming a rapist. Well, he didn't rape the woman. There's no evidence that he even did what she says he did, which was to push her down and forcibly put his hand over her mouth or kiss her or something. I don't even know if he kissed her or what she says he did.
No, she was, 15? He was 17, they're saying.
Right.
Why was she at one of these parties anyways?
Well, that's...
She doesn't remember how she got there, why she was there. I think it's a big farce.
Well,
I wonder how much the Democrats are paying her.
And it's all an excuse, and I agree. I think if you follow the money, I'll bet somebody paid her something.
I'm sure.
There was a Democratic congressperson after that meeting handed an envelope to the attorney
I saw that.
of this woman. So I wonder what was in that envelope.
Well, they already confirmed that one too, basically. It was just like a thank you note or something like that. That's what they said anyway.
Oh,
Who knows?
thank you note.
Who knows?
Couldn't they just say thank you? But
No. Who knows?
yeah, there's more to that story. But I'm going to let that alone because I'm not going to try to guess what was in the envelope. But by the same token, the person that wasn't there can't guess what happened. And if there's not any evidence that this man did something, you have to side with him. That's the law. You have to side with him. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you a quick story, and this really irritates me. I don't even like telling the story. Something happened to me at a radio station one time. I was working in the production facilities where we do commercials. And what are you doing?
Well, you're moving the table and the mic's moving. Of course, I'm trying to go with the mic.
I saw your head ducking like that. Remember those little toy ducks that used to bend down and drink water and then tip back up? But anyway,
I'm sorry.
That's all right. You lighten the load here. There was this a sales guy that had sold airtime to a client who wanted to come in and record a commercial. And I didn't know the guy, and I wasn't the guy that normally recorded him. There was another guy that did. And he knew that guy real well, was kind of buddy with him. And this guy comes in, and he looks a little disheveled, but I didn't think much of it. He sits down, and I said, hey, he goes, I'm here to record. I said, oh, nice to meet you. I'm so-and-so. And he goes, okay. And nice to meet you, too. And he seems sort of normal. I didn't notice anything very strange. And then, but that's all the interaction I had with him. And I said, would you like some coffee or tea or water? No, I'm okay. He said, I'm just here to cut the commercial. I said, okay, great. I said, let me go get your guy that's supposed to record the voice part, because it wasn't me. It was somebody else this time. So I go and I get him, and he's a guy that's been around for years and years. He was in his 60s at the time that I knew him.
Wow.
And great voice, and a legend in the Cleveland market. And this guy comes in and sits down, and I introduce him to my friend. We'll call him Chuck. Chuck is this radio legend. And Chuck's sitting down with him, and I said, are you guys ready to do your part? Because, the guy was going to read his part, and Chuck was going to read his part. And then I was going to edit it together later. So I get all my settings set up, and I start recording. And Chuck waves to me and says, come here, because it was through the glass, and I couldn't hear what they were, or, he didn't want to say what he wanted in the mic. So I walked over, and I said, what's going on? He goes, hey, he's going to use the restroom for a minute. And I said, oh, okay, I said, when you're done, come back, and we'll finish. So Chuck's sitting there, and he goes, there's something wrong with this dude. I said, what do you mean? He said, he's all glassy-eyed, he looks higher than a kite, and he's not himself. And I said, is he not talking to you right? He goes, there's something wrong with him. He said, the guy's got an attitude. He's just looking down at the table. He won't even talk like he normally does. Something's wrong. I said, oh, Chuck, you're just imagining things. You're being sensitive. No. There's something wrong. I said, okay. So we get set up again. They're still in the other room. And what happens is he signals me again, come back to the room. So I go back to the little booth.
What'd you say? What's up, Chuck?
What's up, Chuck? I'm Chuck.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, funny you should ask that. But so Chuck tells me, he goes, hey, he wants to record his part without me in the room, and then I'll record my part after he's done. I go, perfect, no problem. So I record the guy, and he goes, okay, am I all done? I said, yeah, you're set. That sounded great. And I said, I'll edit it together, and I'll make a copy on cassette for you and give it to you before you leave. He goes, good, I'm going to go talk to the general manager, who was a friend of his. He'd known for years. And I said, okay, great. I said, I'll meet you there when I get done. So Chuck comes in and records his part with me in my booth, and I'm able to assemble it, put it together, take it out there, and Chuck again tells me, that dude is messed up. He is on drugs. He's higher than a kite. There is something wrong. I said, okay. I said, I don't know the guy, so I can't really judge. But he did look a little disheveled, that's all I can say. So he goes down to the general manager's office, his buddy. This is the client, walking down there. I get done. I put everything on a cassette. I take it into his office, and I hand it to him. And he goes, Chris, and he says, I'm going to wrap up here with so-and-so, the client. And when I'm done, he says, could you come back into my office? And I said, sure, no problem. And I said, I'll see him when he walks out, and I'll just come into your office then. And he goes, yeah, okay, that'd be great. Guy leaves. I walk into the general manager's office, and he goes, what did you do to this guy? I said, what? What did you do to him? I said, well, I offered him coffee, tea, or water. I asked him how he was doing. It was nice to meet him. Asked him if he's ready to record. I got Chuck in the booth, and I sat him down, asked him if he was comfortable, is there anything he needed? And he said no, and that he was comfortable, he was fine. And I went to record him, and then he decided he didn't want Chuck in the room. So I got Chuck out, and then I put him in the booth. I got his part done, recorded Chuck's part, and then I assembled them, put music with it, and I brought it to your office.
So you chucked him out just like that,
I chucked him out just like that. And he said, well, he said you mistreated him horribly. I said, in what way? I said, I don't even know the guy. How could I mistreat him? I've never mistreated anybody in this building. I've never mistreated anybody. And he said, well, he says you did. And I said, well, I guess it comes down to who do you believe? I said, you've known me. I work with you every day. And you've known this guy for a long time. But I said, I'm going to tell you something. I said, well, Chuck said this to me, that there's something wrong with this guy. He's higher than a kite. He's not acting right. He's not normal. Something's wrong. And I said, I just had met him and sat him down. That's all I did. And Chuck told me that. So I said, go talk to Chuck. He knows the whole story. He was there with me the whole time. The whole time I was with this guy, Chuck was there. And I said, you've known Chuck your whole life, since you were a little kid. So go talk to him. I want you to. because it'll vindicate what I'm telling you, because I never mistreated him. And I don't know where this comes from. And he never mistreated me, for that matter. There was no rough exchange of words or looks or anything. So I don't know what his complaint is. I said, I've never mishandled anybody.
So what did he say you did to him?
He wouldn't tell me. He just said that I mistreated him. I said, I never mistreated him. So I said, I can't imagine what he could even... I just played it back through my head over and over again. How could I have even gotten that message? I'm always friendly and nice to people. And so later on in the day, what happens, but it affects somebody's paycheck, of course. The sales guy, it's his client. So the sales guy comes in and he says to me, doesn't even say hello to me, says nothing, just attacks me. What did you do to my client? I said, you want to step out and step back in again and talk to me in a civil tone? I didn't do anything to your client. And I said, I really don't like being accused of something I didn't do. So I said, if there's a problem, it's with your client. I said, I never did anything to this guy. And I told him the whole story, went through each thing I did. I said, where in that story did I abuse the guy? How did I treat him rudely? What did he say? Because I can't fathom.
Well, maybe you didn't offer him a beer. You offered him coffee and tea. And
Maybe
water.
that was it. So I asked him to talk to Chuck. I said, Chuck's been around. He was with me the whole time I was with the guy. If I said anything untoward or bad or nasty to him, he would have heard it. So why don't you go talk to him before you accuse me of anything? And he just got mad at me again. No, you're messing with my paycheck. You're doing it. I said, son, I ain't messing with nothing. And then I started getting angry because I don't like being falsely accused.
Well, I don't blame you.
So I said, I'm going to tell you something. Let me give you an example of what's happening here right now. How often do you beat your wife?
Oh, Nelly.
And he looks at me like, what? I said, how often do you beat your wife?
Well, I never beat my wife. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
I said, that's what I'm talking about. And he looked at me cross-eyed like, what? I don't get it. I said, I heard it in the street, so it must be true, right? I said, be careful who you believe before you do any questioning or research on it. Be careful, because you're wrongly accusing me of something I didn't do, and I don't sit well with that kind of stuff. Get your facts straight before you come to me with this stuff.
Right.
I said, you didn't even go talk to the people that were there. Go talk to Chuck. Go talk to Chuck. He'll tell you. And if you don't believe him and me, then you've got a problem. I've not done a thing wrong to this guy. So that's where we left it. I didn't get fired. I'm surprised, to be honest.
Obviously, the other guy didn't like you
I don't know why.
for some reason.
And I don't care why,
Well,
really.
when I first met you, I didn't like you.
Well, there you go. I mean, I had to make you put the shotgun away.
Exactly. Remember that?
I haven't told that story. That's a good one. That's cute. Out here, it's who you know, right? I don't know what your impression was.
I wonder what your mother-in-law was thinking.
I'm walking up the driveway with two women up to his house, and knowing. Now, we almost walked over from the property, straight over to your front door.
Right.
I said, no, we're not doing that. I said, I want them to see me coming, whoever it is, because I don't know who they are. I don't know what their mindset is. And so I said, we have to walk up, because out here, things are crazy. I mean, things can get hairy pretty quick. They shot a sheriff over here, not less than a mile away.
Yeah. That was, a couple of years ago?
Yeah, because the guys were growing pot in their backyard.
And stealing everybody's valuables at their houses.
Oh, you think they were doing that?
Well, yeah. We found it at their house once they got arrested.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because we had to go pick up 2 cars for an old lady that lives out here. He was a backyard mechanic guy.
Uh-huh.
So my friend and I, you know who Bob is.
Oh, yeah.
We went there to pick up one of her. She had an old Mustang and a newer truck over there he was working on. And we found all kinds of stuff was somebody else's that they've been missing.
So did you get it back to its proper owner?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad when a story has a happy ending. But those guys, that was all because of a guy that was out trying to outrun the sheriff in the streets on a motorcycle, right? Mm-hmm. Or a mini bike. I don't know what it was.
The guy's kid.
Yeah, and they tried to pull him over, and he wouldn't pull over. He took off.
They followed him home.
So they followed him right to his front door, and when he got to the door,
And
the old man came out with a shotgun.
farm.
No, yeah, a pot farm after the fact. Was it a rifle or a shotgun they were using?
I think they shot the cop with a rifle because he was at the end of their driveway, which was probably maybe 50, 60 yards.
And to give you an idea of what this
house.
property is like, Garth can see their property from the top of his hill because he can look down into their property, sort of. But there's a berm of, what is it, a 4.5 foot high berm all the way around the house that they pushed up with bulldozers?
Well, yeah, kind of.
And
And then there's big holes. And that place was a boy, oh boy.
Yeah, and then the mom lived there, and the dad.
It was a dump, basically. Big
Yeah.
junkyard. And
A bunch of crap in the backyard, and then the pot. So when they start shooting at the sheriff, and did not shoot the deputy,
right.
he survived. By the way, I want to let you know that. And he was just a volunteer deputy
Yeah,
too,
he
or
was a
sheriff.
volunteer out here.
Yeah, just to help out, and he gets shot for that. It's like, come on. So the kid went to jail. The dad went to jail.
And the mom went to jail.
The mom went to jail, and he had a felony conviction, right?
Right.
Because he wasn't supposed to have guns, and he did
Something, yeah.
because he had been busted for something else.
I really don't remember.
So now the mom went to jail because of the pot. So yeah,
The mom got off easy. They let her out. She had nothing to do with anything. She
Yeah.
was just there cooking,
yeah, I can see that. That's a shame. But
But it was the dad and the kid that were the rat's asses.
yeah, and it takes all kinds.
It's a good way to teach your kid,
Yeah, isn't it
your child.
crazy? So my point with this whole thing with Kavanaugh is that you can't take one person's word for something without any evidence.
Exactly, and there's no evidence.
And that's no insult to any woman that suffered any abuse in the past. Because if you have truly suffered something, you shouldn't. No man has a right to do anything like that. And I'm for putting these guys to jail or chemically neutering them if they're acting like that.
If you ask me, she looked like she was lost. Anyways,
She did. She looked like she had been convinced that this was what happened. Now, what makes me suspicious in this day and age, this is my honest to God feeling on it, people manipulate other people. Mm-hmm. And a hypnotist certainly can do that if they can implant memories. There have been people that have said that, you see, I don't believe in past lives or any of that garbage, because I think it's all people thinking that they lived in the past or wanting to. And you ever
what
notice?
about deja vu?
Well, deja vu's different. That's the feeling of experiencing this over again. I mean, I had that feeling a couple times a year, and that could be just a memory loss, or it could be, temporary,
That's probably what it is.
or something. Yeah. I know. I see you rolling your eyes over there. Yeah, at your age, Chris. So I don't put it past anybody to try to make a point by implanting memories in somebody and using some innocent person to do their will. They were certainly willing to bring her name out and throw her under the bus.
That's what they did.
And they didn't have any reason to expose her other than because if they wanted to do some fact finding and find the truth, they could have done it without having a public trial on it. You know what I'm saying? A public exposure. And that embarrasses both of them. And it was needless when there wasn't any fact behind it. So it would be as if nothing happened to the public if it didn't tell that story. But they made a circus out of it on purpose.
On purpose.
They wanted to make him look bad because they knew it would besmirch his name. Just like it besmirched my name when this guy came in and falsely accused me. And they had doubts. Now my employer had doubts. The guy that was servicing the account, the sales guy, he had doubts. He was convinced I was evil and nasty to his client. And to this day, I never was. It makes me angry.
I don't blame you.
I don't like being falsely accused of anything. And that's one thing I can't tolerate. So the point is, don't accuse somebody unless you know the facts. At least do an investigation before you even ask them about it. Find out what you think you can find out first. And then approach the person and say, hey, it kind of looks bad because this happened. Tell me about it. And then listen to that person. Listen to their side of it. Hopefully, that will be the end of it. But anyway, when you get into he said, she said, that's an even draw. You can't conclude anything from that. So that's all I had to say. I'm stepping off the soapbox.
Are you finally finished?
I'm finally finished.
Thank you. No.
Didn't you like reliving that again?
Yes, I did. No, but I could actually, I know what you're saying.
It's just wrong.
It is.
And to ruin somebody's life over it, it's sad.
That's exactly what they're trying to. They don't care who they hurt or ruin or anything else, just as long as they stay in power.
That's exactly right. Power is a corruptible thing.
Amen.
So there you have it. My piece has been said, and if you disagree with it, I don't care.
So, anyways, how about those Astros?
I don't know anything about the Astros.
Me either. I was just bringing something up. How about the Dodgers?
I don't know anything about them either. You have to talk to my wife. That's her favorite team.
Is it really?
Yeah, LA Dodgers.
Oh. It used to be mine, too, till they cheated in the World Series in the 80s.
Do you have any evidence of that?
Kind of. You got to go back in the archives. I don't think they cheated, though. I think it was something happened in the...
I don't know anything about it. I know I'm
That's my brother's favorite team, too.
I'm sports impaired.
We used to go to Dodgers games all the time.
Did you?
Hmm. Steve, back in the 80s, Steve Garvey and...
Yeah, I remember Garvey. He was the underwear model.
Oh, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, BVDs.
For a while, yeah. That was after he got out of baseball.
So on a different note, I thought-
Baseball's been very, very good to me.
baseball. So on another note, have you watched Dr. Pimple Popper on television?
No, I don't get that channel.
What's funny is I had just discovered her maybe 2 weeks before I saw she had a TV show, before she was offered the show.
I've seen the previews, but, you know.
Yeah, and this woman was on the internet, if you don't know the backstory. She had been filming these pimples that she was popping, and she realized that people were addicted to watching this. It's so satisfying watching someone push a pimple out, a black head or a white head or this pasty mess that comes out of there. And she couldn't believe how many people were as fascinated as she is with it. And she got into it because she felt she could help people. She sees all kinds of people that have pimples all over their chest, their back, maybe some really deep-seated growth underneath their skin. And she's a medical doctor, and
By
she
the
takes
way,
care
what
of
are
it.
you having for dinner tonight?
I know. Hope you're not listening at breakfast. This is not good breakfast talk. I won't get into graphic details, but you can see it on the internet. Just look up Dr. Pimple Popper. Sandra Lee is her name. She's a real medical doctor, and she helps people that have all sorts of
You
problems.
mean there's still real medical doctors out there?
There are still real ones out there, and she's a good one. She knows what she's doing.
I thought everything got switched over to nurse practitioners.
Almost. Boy, isn't that a crime? Mm-hmm. You're paying for a doctor, but you're getting a nurse practitioner.
99 or 98% of the time, they don't even know what the hell they're talking about or doing.
Well, maybe the ones you've dealt with, but I've dealt with some pretty good ones. And some of them are pretty sharp. Some of the nurses, I think, are much better doctors than the doctors. I have to say that. I've had some aunts, a couple aunts that are nurses, and they were good.
Aunt Nursey?
Aunt Nursey? Hello, Aunt Nursey. Can you fix this? Put a Band-Aid on it?
Who is that?
I don't know.
Oh, that sounds like one of those actors or something.
Church lady?
Okay, go. Yeah, who in the hell is that?
Dana Carvey? Isn't that special?
Okay.
Or was it Carol Burnett? One of those people. Eunice?
Well, that was Vicki Lawrence.
Vicki Lawrence, yeah. Who was a Carol Burnett lookalike. And that's how she got the job.
Oh, really?
working
I
with-
didn't
yeah.
know that.
Yep, she was impersonating Carol, and Carol somehow got wind of her and then saw her and said, I want to hire you. And she did. She
Boy,
worked with
that
Carol
was a
Burnett.
good old show.
That was a great show. Harvey Korman was funny.
Too bad she
Tim?
charges $100 for her DVDs.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, I'd like to get the set.
Well, it's not just her. It's the company that
Right.
produced the
I
show.
understand.
Yeah. I think if it were her, she would just want to get it out in public.
Okay, what were we going to talk about? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just talking about Dr. Pimple Popper.
Oh,
and then,
Pimple Popper.
And what a great job she does. And it really is fascinating to me. My wife likes to, I told my wife, I said, you should have been a doctor because you like to pop anybody's pimple. If I have one on my shoulder or something one time, hey, you got a pimple. Can I pop it?
Listen to this one. I had one on my back one time.
Is this going to be gross?
Yes.
Oh, no.
But anyways, Paulie, my son, or stepson, I should say, and his cousin were at the house, and I go, "Oh man, this thing's bugging the hell out of me." His cousin Mikey goes, "I'll pop it for you." Okay, thanks, man. So he's squeezing, it pops, and it went right in his mouth.
Oh,
I know. He's going choking and gagging.
Oh man, I did not need to hear that. That's horrible.
Well, he'll never forget it, I'm sure.
Well, it didn't kill him. I mean,
No, it didn't.
You can always go and get some mouthwash. Quick, stat. My brother, same thing. My brother was, when we were little, we used to sneak in the garage and get dog food right out of the bag and eat it. It was a kid thing. Somehow we thought it was like a super energy pill, and we could chew it and it tasted pretty good. And my dad says, "What are you doing eating that stuff? Do you know what they grind up in there? Dead horses and pigs and pig lips and chicken parts, and hooves." And I go, "Well, it tastes pretty good, Dad. You should try one." No, put it away.
Did he eat it?
And he goes, "Don't you guys eat that." Well, we did. And my brother, when he was real little, he was 3 years younger than me. So we're out in the yard, and he sees one on the ground. He picks it up and puts it in his mouth.
It was a
chewing.
turd.
It was a dog turd.
Oh my God.
My dad saw it as it happened, and he's going, "No," in slow-mo. He takes him into our basement, because we had a basement door that opened, and he knew the basement was open, so he barged into the door, and we had a sink down there, and he was rinsing my brother's mouth out with water, and he was gagging and coughing. Oh, man.
Nothing better than a dog, dude.
Yeah. Well, I guess he tasted dog food on both ends.
You want to hear another pimple popping episode?
Sure, why not? Since
Okay.
we're going to get an X rating on this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
An X-ray. My friend, well, actually he was my old boss, but he owned a rental yard, or his dad did. But anyways, our other friend, little Jim, he was covered with pimples all over the place, his face, his chest, and his back and everything.
Oh, that's rough.
So my old boss, he would grab one of those big pins, the clear ones that you could pull the
The center out of?
center out of,
Yeah.
and he'd put that over the pimple and hit it like that,
Oh.
and it would shoot that. Yeah, it'd shoot that stuff up in there, and we're like, "Oh, gee," and he kept doing it all these, and it was gross.
Well, you know what? That is an effective way to do it, though.
It is.
It really is. I never thought of that.
Yep,
It puts a lot of pressure in that one spot. Mm-hmm. And, man, that would work.
it did.
Wow, I'll have to try that.
It just popped them right out.
Next time I get a pimple. But enough about pimples. We'll move on to EVP. Have you ever heard of EVP?
I have now.
Well, it's not the kind of P you like to talk about in public too often, but it's electronic voice phenomenon. It's the latest craze. All the kids are doing it. No, not
Yeah,
all the ghost hunters anyway. They're using digital recorders to record ghost voices. Now, I've seen this on TV shows, and I'm convinced it's a real phenomenon. There is something to it, but again, what my belief is.
I thought you didn't believe in ghosts.
I don't believe in ghosts. I believe in demons. And I think that they manipulate things in reality and they can make that happen. So I have no doubt that it's happening and they're getting voices on tape. But it's really interesting to note how it works. But what's funny is I've dealt with recording tape my whole life. From the time I was like 16 until now. I mean, recording of every type, whether it was digital, through computers or through a handheld recorder or any variation of reel-to-reel to cassette tapes. And I have never heard that phenomenon on any tape that I have ever recorded. So if it's a phenomenon, it's because you're asking for it to happen. And who's available to ask? Demonic entities. If they're here, they're all around you all the time, just like angels. They're around, you just can't see them. They're in a different state. They're in a different realm. So,
I was going to ask you what state they were in.
Nebraska.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're from Nebraska, all of them. So, go Huskers, They get these voices on tape that go to where they're known to be haunted places.
Right.
And they put the tape recorders out and run them, and they ask questions. They'll say, "Hey, what's going on here?" Or, "Do you know I'm here?"
What's your name?
What's your name? And what's your star sign, dude?
Yeah.
And they get responses. I'm not looking for a response. I don't when I go there, I don't want to be manipulated by them, because what ends up happening is you start believing in it and you start getting fascinated with it, and that's all you think about, and then you're just hardcore talking to demons, and then they finally get you to do their bidding. Slowly but surely, they turn you around and they suck you in. They get you to do more and more things. Well, if this worked, I want you to try a Ouija board, or I want you to try this, or say this incantation, or any way to manipulate you and get you away from what you should be doing in your life. So I'm thinking it's not really worth pursuing, because to me, I know what they are. But it is an interesting phenomenon, and it's fairly recent that people discovered that this works. And there's and you've seen those, haven't you? On ghost
I've seen
shows or something.
like that, yeah.
They always go into the most haunted room and ask questions. There was a guy that came up with a thing called a ghost box. Have you ever seen those?
No.
Well, a ghost box is a white noise generator, and supposedly the ghosts can communicate easily through white noise. They can disturb the white noise so that you can actually hear their voice. Because they don't have a quote unquote voice box of their own. So what they end up doing is they disturb this white noise because it's a constant signal, and you can actually hear it through the white noise. You can hear their voice or what they're saying. It's kind of interesting. I mean, when you hear it, and a guy that after Art Bell passed away, a guy used one of them to try to communicate with Art Bell. And the weird thing was, he wasn't just getting white noise interruption where you could actually hear syllables and words being said. He was getting Art Bell's voice played back from old radio shows through the box.
I'll be darned.
Is that weird or what?
That's strange, yeah.
It's almost as if someone were to change the channel on the box to receive radio, and then you're hearing little snippets of Art's show, and he's answering the questions. So he'd ask a pertinent question, and then there would be a snippet of Art Bell saying the answer to the question.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah. Now, I could duplicate that. I could put a white noise generator in on one channel, and I could put snippets of old Art Bell's show together that fit what I'm going to ask, and I can assemble that.
So is that
put
what
it
you
together.
think the guy did?
I'm not sure. I mean, it doesn't sound that way, but it could be. I'm just saying it's easily done. Mm-hmm. It takes time. Like anything, it takes time to edit it, but I could make it happen. Because I can do anything with audio tape or audio editing. You can do almost anything.
I'll be darned.
You can make people say things they didn't say. That's what got me into broadcasting when I was a kid. I didn't want to get into radio per se. I wanted to get into the editing room so I could record things and do radio plays or commercials or create sound effects and put things together. That was my interest. But then I ended up getting hired on the air for my first job. And then it all went downhill from there.
Yeah. No, you did that, for 20 years or something?
25.
Wow.
And then I started when I was 18, went to broadcast school and graduated. And 3 months later, I was on the air in Cleveland, scared to death.
Oh, I bet.
Because it was the most, even to this day, it's still a little nerve-wracking the first day on the air when you go into a new studio.
Back when the CBs came out and everything and all that,
Oh, yeah.
I was afraid to talk on those.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like, well, I don't want to talk to anybody on
I don't know these people.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I started that, too, when I was 16. I had one in my bedroom. I asked my parents if I could put an antenna on the roof, and I got a big Starduster antenna, which would handle lots of wattage, and we strapped it up to the chimney. Dad told me I could do it, so he helped me. And then in my bedroom, I just ran the cable down in through my window, and then I had to stuff it full of stuff so that when the winter wind blew and the snow came, it wouldn't come into my bedroom. Mm-hmm. And we blocked it off pretty well, so it worked well. And then I had a car battery I brought into my bedroom to power it. And then I just hooked up the CB and put it next to my bed, and I'd be on that thing after I did my homework, and I'd just be chatting away.
I'll be darned.
It was fun. People always thought I was older because I had a deep voice. By the time I was 16, I sounded like a man. So
Wow.
I did. Walk like a man.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're so horrible. But I was able to chat with people, and we ended up. They did these things called coffee clatches or coffee breaks, because the symbol for keying your mic was breaking. Breaker 19. Mm-hmm. You'd break, break 19, and then so you're doing a break in the conversation because somebody else is talking. So you're asking for a break. And so once they grant you permission to talk, then you talk and you try to pick up the person you were looking for. You ask if he's out there. And the way you do that back in the 70s was, like breaker 19, this is Chris. I'm looking for the City Slicker. City Slicker, are you out there? Do you copy? And then, of course, if they're out there, they go, yeah, hey, I'm
you
out
didn't
here.
have a handle?
I did. I was Seabird. 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 I don't know why. And then, of course, Bill, I was talking to him on CB.
Well, bird is
That's
the
how
word.
Yes. That's how I met Bill, my wacky inventor friend. And I call him
I'll
the
be
crazy
darned.
inventor. Bill was on the radio all the time, and we would chat, and he thought I was saying Seaberg. Like that's the one of the manufacturers of a jukebox. And he was, somebody knows about jukeboxes. And I said, no, Seabird. I can't remember what Bill's handle was.
Me either.
I should ask him next time he's on the show.
You know what mine was?
What?
Young Dakota.
Oh, that's cool. Young Dakota. Yeah, CB, it was a fun time. If you weren't there, you missed a good time. But they would hold these coffee clatches or coffee breaks, and we would go, they would usually have them at the fire station in town, and we would show up and everybody would be there and you'd drink coffee and have donuts, and they had a CB club there. They would sponsor it, and they would want everybody to join and pay dues. It wasn't much. Might be $10 a year. And they would hold these coffee clatches, and it was a chance to meet everybody you talked to and form of community, and it was really kind of a cool thing. And then the more you knew about these people, the less likely you were to ignore them or treat them bad on the air, because some people had some clashing going on.
Right.
But it was a fun time. And the only thing bad that came out of that, my car battery in my bedroom, my mom got mad because my bedspread, when I charged the battery, it was at the foot of the bed, and the bedspread kind of hung near the battery. So when I had the lid open on the battery, I had to pop the tabs, and charging the battery, the sulfuric acid would boil.
Ate the
It ate the
bedspread.
bed. And wherever it sprinkled little drops, there was a hole in my bedspread.
I did that with a brand new pair of Levi's.
Oh, you're kidding.
Brand new.
I hate when that happens.
We were at my friend's dad's boat. We were changing the batteries out on it, and we were walking them back up to the car to put them in the trunk, and spilled battery acid on, didn't realize it. My mom went to wash my pants. They were just in shreds. My mom was like, "What'd you do to these? These are brand new, man."
Yeah, and that's back in the day when you didn't have a whole lot of money.
Exactly.
It's like you had enough to get school clothes, a couple pairs of pants, and a pair of shoes, and
pair of shoes.
that was it. Yeah, I know that.
And then your grandparents would buy you the socks
Yes.
for Christmas or what have you.
Yeah, we got fruit for Christmas, oranges and, I don't know.
Was it that time
asparagus.
already?
It is.
Oh, I'll be damned.
Yeah, it's funny when you talk about Brett Kavanaugh for 45 minutes,
Yeah.
how things go.
Yeah,
Well, I wish him
hope
well.
everything goes okay with him.
Yeah, him and his family don't deserve this crap. And, when you have evidence, then come talk to us. But when you don't put a mentally disturbed woman on TV. And
That's what I think she is. She's a little,
it's a fact. I mean, there's evidence of that.
something's wrong there.
And it's sad. And I think she really believes he did it, but he didn't do it. All right. So what kind of fun fact have you for us?
Well, anyways, on Strange But True Facts, a person who smokes 1 pack of cigarettes a day inhales a half a cup of tar every year.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh my gosh, he's right. So
Well,
quit
that's another
smoking
reason.
out there.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to work on you, too.
Well, yeah, I quit for a year and a half, and then with all the crap going on,
Yeah. You got to de-stress other ways
right,
and get rid of the smoke.
I agree.
And that's all I'm going to say.
And that's I'm sticking to it.
Okay. Well, hey, it's been fun, and I hope you enjoyed what we talked about. And if you didn't, I'm sorry. But that's the way it is on this end of the microphone. Well, have a good time the rest of your day, and we'll talk to you next week, right?
Yes, we will.
On the Bunker Boys.
Aren't you gonna?
No, I'm not.